Here at Wren House Studio, and today I'm going to answer a couple of questions that have come up around the journaling process. And in our recent fall course, Creating Your Own Career, we had a wonderful time creating our book that explored the 10 stages of the creation process. So today, as a kind of a follow-up to that, and this is available to anybody, we can all use ideas and inspiration around how to capture our thoughts and our passion, the work of our heart. And so I want to share with you, first of all, by answering one of the questions, and that is, how do you paint the cover and keep the corners down, is one of our questions around using a paper cover sketchbook. So I'm going to show you that in just a moment. I'll do a little demonstration. While the cover is then drying, I will show you a whole slew of different kinds of approaches to the visual journaling process, which can incorporate writing for its main, the main aspect of a visual journal can certainly be writing. You know, a lot of us know and engage in the practice of morning pages, for example. Some of us write down before we go to bed, you know, some of the things that have taken place during the day that have been uplifting or challenging, so that as we're sleeping, Old Friend can help us to unravel any tangles in our lives. So I'll do, the first part will be the painting of the cover so that it is apparent. You don't need to keep what's on the cover. You can cover it over and then you have a blank slate. You have a fresh surface, and from there you can paint, you can draw, you can collage, you can do anything you choose to. And again, I'll be showing you a few samples as we go forward. So without further ado, I'm going to reposition the camera to the best of my ability. Again, I'm very bumpy with this. I'm really just learning this technology. I don't have a lot of what do they call it? Something in whistles. I don't have a lot of things up my sleeve. So I'm just going to turn the camera and then we will go forward with a demonstration. You can see here that I have a brush, and it can be any kind of a brush, but a squirrel hair brush from the hardware store is just about 99 cents. This is a little bit longer handle, and I'm just going to put it into my water bucket and get it wet, and then wipe off some of the moisture, and then I'm just going to use gesso. Now, gesso is our friend. We always want to have gesso in our studio if we're painting anything in our studio, because it creates a barrier between, in this case, it's going to create a barrier between the paper and then the paint that I want to put on top of the cover to make it my own. So again, I'm just going to do a very simple demonstration. I just dip the brush into the gesso and then I begin to cover the sketchbook cover with as much or as little gesso as I choose. In other words, I can make it rather a thin layer, let that thin layer dry, and do another layer on top of it. Or I can do a much thicker layer and even make it sculptural if I want to. You know, those of us who have been working with our mandala making using the signs of life, the cover, I'm just going to demonstrate real quick. The cover can be a really cool place to create a mandala. And we can even do it while the gesso is wet. So I'll just do a quick demo and then I'll erase it. But you can see that now the cover of the sketchbook is white. There's even colored gessos if you want to. And you can always take some of the gesso and put it on a palette and add just a few drops of any color of acrylic paint and add color to your cover in that way. You can always dry your cover with your studio dryer, or you can let it dry by itself. If and when, this is a rather thin paper, if and when the paper begins to curl a bit, you don't have to get worried about that because you can weight it down with heavy books after it's dried, and that will take out any curling that might take place because of the gesso. I'm going to grab something that I can, well, I think I can do it right with this. I just have this little sample tube of paint that shows you can buy them sometimes, or put an old ketchup or mustard or whatever. I don't even know what comes out of these kinds of tops, but you can add them to your paint. But I'm just going to draw with this just real quick to, again, kind of show the idea that the gesso is something that you can use to draw into. So here I am just creating a very simple mandala in the wet gesso, and I'm using my 3 shapes from my universal shapes test, and I'm just going to add one of my gifts in the middle. So there's my little mandala in the wet gesso. I might say to myself, ooh, I like that. And I like it, that the idea that when it dries, I'll be able to come into each of these sections and paint and add color around. I like that. Or I could say, nah, doesn't really float my boat today, and I can just erase it while the gesso is still wet. So this can be a really wonderful technique for not just the cover of a journal or sketchbook, but also it can be a great technique on paper or on canvas at any time. So again, now I've got the blank page, and I can just leave it alone. I also wanted to mention, and it will dry, and then we can paint on it, write on it, collage on it, do whatever we'd like. I also wanted to mention, because I noticed when I got this sketchbook out, one of the few sketchbooks I had with a paper cover that I could do this demo on. So when I took it out, I opened it up, and I noticed that here's just a demonstration that I had done at the museum for a still life. But I noticed that I had also glued some of the pages together in the sketchbook with the gesso, and that can be something that can be helpful too. So the gesso can act as a glue. I didn't put it all the way through because I was doing a demo, but these pages are glued together with the gesso. I could probably separate them, but I don't really want to. I want them to be glued. So I'm going to set this aside. That's our first part of answering some questions that have come in from our recent Create Your Own Career course, where we worked with our own sketchbook workbook, spiral bound, so that it's easy to open to any page and have it lay flat. This happens to be a gray tone sketchbook. That's why the pages are not white. The second question that I got is, what kind of notebooks do you use and where do you buy them? Well, I love that question, and it's a really good one. So I'm going to spend a few minutes here showing you. Let me put my brush into water so that it does not dry with the gesso on it. And I want to cap my gesso. This has been kind of fun. I really appreciate the question because it had me kind of look around. Now, I've been journaling since 1969. I have over 150 journals that are cataloged and chronicled in my archives. And I started out at the very beginning of my journaling practice using a very simple, easy to purchase notebook with college ruled paper. And that's what I started out with in 1969. I worked for probably 10 years with this format, and I did a lot of drawing into them, and I wanted to just show you one of my recent, let me see if I have something colorful that I can show you that was done recently. Anyway, I like to work now with graph paper notebooks when I'm journaling in this way, and that way I can write, I can draw, and I can really, I can add color when I want to, and I can really explore whatever my ideas are at the moment. Again, you know, I like to use watercolor pencils. Here's a set that I have out, and this is the Prismacolor, and I have a water glass next to my bed, and my journal's usually there, and I just dip these pencils into my water glass and get them wet, and then I can draw or paint with them into my journal. And it doesn't happen all the time anymore, but sometimes I really enjoy just sitting in the morning and doing a quick doodle for the day. However, once I moved away, after 10 years of using college ruled notebooks for my journaling and drawing in the early days, I began to make my own journals. I didn't get any of them out to show you, but they were basically cardstock paper with lots of different colors. And then I would get book board cover stock, and I would take them to the office supply store, and I'd have them spiral bind them. So I would make my own. And if you want to see those, you can let me know, and I can dig them. I can go into the bins and bring some of those out. They were very wonderful to work with. But then I went to hardbound, non-spiral bound journals that I began to work with. And this happens to be from Utrecht. And I purchased them by the dozen. So I'll just order a carton of 12 sketchbooks. These are 11 by 14. And they're really, for me, they give a really beautiful surface for working on. And the paper is meant to be used with mixed media. So let me show you one that has been worked on. Again, this is really exciting. Usually I do something on the cover. So this is one that I used metallic silver to just draw. And this one was done in 1994. So this was, and it's journal number 81 in 1994. And I just wanted to kind of show you, because I had not seen these for since forever. But this is the inside front cover. And again, working with watercolor and ink is really fun. And then I usually, I'm a writer and a visual artist. So I love to combine words and images. These are all 11 by 14 pages. And I think a lot of these were done in 1994. Crayola used to make these blending markers, and I think a lot of these are done with the Crayola blending markers and with watercolor and pen and ink. So I'm just really exploring the ideas that I'm working with at that time, using the double pages of the hardbound sketchbook. We're looking at the idea of how sketchbooks what kind of sketchbooks we can use, and then, how we use them. And it becomes a wonderful way to create our own visual language and a connection to what it is we're exploring at any given time. So, again, just basically a doodle for the day. And from there, much goes on with both writing and drawing. Here's a little study I did of one of my favorite plants, the buckeye. This is a graphic design I did for the art studio where my studio was at that time. And just continually playing. So this is a hardcover, non-spiral bound, able to decorate the cover. And then there's also hardcovers. These are from the art supply store, or you can get them online. Here's the same size with a spiral binding. Really nice, again, because it's possible to then lay them open and lay them flat and just begin to work in them using double pages or single pages as you choose to. And just really keeping a visual record of what it is you're curious about and interested in at any given time. I also like to put articles in to my workbooks, sketchbooks, and pieces that I might be. This is a big piece I was doing for a library. I was doing a mural for a library. That's one of the studies that I did for the first part of my getting my ideas together. And it turned into, I think it was a 4 by 40 foot or 5 by 40 foot mural. And again, just anything we are interested in. This is a page of studies on foxes because I have fox neighbors. So you can see I got photographs of foxes, and then I also did a study of the fox to learn, because we learn so much from copying. Okay, now I'm going to go a little bit faster, but here is a smaller sketchbook. And again, same thing. I gessoed the cover, and then I painted whatever I wanted to paint. This is the sketchbook that I used. Front and back are painted. This is the sketchbook that I used when I was on retreat at an island for 18 and a half weeks all by myself. And it really demonstrates the process that I went through while I was at the island all alone, working on my own, really learning a lot about what was going on for me at that time. I also just recently, for our course, got myself a spiral bound sketchbook of the same size. Here is a collage cover. So it's really fun to just explore. You cannot make a mistake. And you can always, as with the gesso demo a moment ago, you can always erase things with gesso. Here are smaller versions of sketchbook workbooks that I collect. These I buy whenever I see them on sale. It's a beautiful leather bound. And again, it's just a place where you can keep notes and have fun. Whoop, page is falling out. Have fun just exploring whatever is of interest to you at the time. Let me get these things that fell out. And so I collect these little, hand-sized ones. I always keep one in my bag wherever I'm at, and really a great place for ideas. Keep your ideas. Ideas come from out of space. They just kind of drop in on us, and we want to be able to capture them. In a word, I was at a Ram Dass lecture and did a portrait of Ram Dass while he was speaking to us. That was in 2004. So the smaller ones are cool. This is a really neat craft paper notebook that was heavily gessoed. And then the person who made it, I don't know if you can see that, it's Frida Kahlo, is inset in a photo frame, and then a quote. She stormed into his life, took control of the right side of his brain. So that's a nice, very cool little journal. And it's got a button, like a gear button. It's a nut bolt button that goes through, and then on the inside it has craft paper. And this is an artist-made book, and I don't know who the artist was, so I cannot give them credit for that. All right, so let's see. What else did I want to show you? Oh, I did want to show you. Here's another really cool little hand-sized notebook that I got at the museum, Cleveland Museum of Art. And, again, you just put your small sketches in there and your ideas. This is my friend, Sir John, when he was dying on his deathbed. I mean, these become, really important pieces of our experience. So small journals, large journals, notebooks from the office supply store, sketchbooks from the art store. Also, I found, I'm using one of these currently. Hopefully you can see the cover is embossed leather. I found, this one has not been used at all yet, but I got these at a house sale, made in Italy notebooks with these embossed leather covers. I've got 2 of those. And you can even take a simple notebook, 3-ring notebook, and fill it with your own paper and make your journal that way. This just has one of my paintings reproduced and pushed down inside the cover. People give me journals. This one is a dream journal. I have not used it, but it's beautiful to look at. This is another journal that I was given. It's a cloth-bound journal. So again, the possibilities are endless. And these are by my grandsons. This is, my grandson made me this one. It's got lined paper, which I would most likely gesso. And this is my other grandson. When they were little, they made these journals in class and sent them to me. They're from a squareoneart.com website that evidently takes a drawing, puts it onto the cover, and then spiral binds it. So there we have kinds of notebooks that we can use. And I wanted to show you 2 more by a very dear artist friend, Karen Bartimol. You can look her up online. She doesn't make things anymore right now other than masks for us during the pandemic. But she made this beautiful journal for me many years ago. This is a pocket. You can get these cellophane pockets and put things inside of them. And then she used craft paper, which is just like, the stuff paper we use for wrapping packages, or paper bag paper would be also good for something like this, because again, you can gesso it. And for her cover, she used just pieces of cardboard, maybe like tagboard, and she stenciled them with leaf stencils, and probably looks like plastic bags pushed into the acrylic paint and just pressed in all over to make this beautiful cover with the leaf patterns on top. Probably leaves that she collected. And she also made me this beautiful journal book that I will be using probably in the near future. She was having her home painted, and the painter started rolling up the drop cloth on the floor, and he said he would be back. He was going to get a fresh drop cloth. And she said, "What are you going to do with that one?" And he said, "I'm going to throw it away. I don't keep them." The canvas drop cloth. So she asked him if she could have it. And of course he said, "Sure." And so this is the back page of this canvas drop cloth sketchbook that she made me. And each page, every other page she gessoed. So you have the gessoed pages. I love how it's got the unfinished edges from the canvas drop cloth. You turn the page, I'm going backwards, but you turn the page, there's the seam of the drop cloth there, and all of the paint marks from this fellow painting walls in people's homes. She gessoed those 2 pages for me, and the next page is ungessoed. So it's going to be really, really fun to explore what happens in this sketchbook. And it's all hand-stitched. She stitched everything together by hand. She made each signature, which looks to be like just one piece. Yeah, one piece of canvas folded makes one signature. And then she stitched them together. So she's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signatures make up this sketchbook, and it's a very nice size. I love it. It's square format. I'm just in love with it. I also wanted to share with you that when you go to create in your new sketchbook, let me grab the one that's been drying. This is now not quite dry, but it's almost dry. And from here, I can go anywhere. Again, I can use any kinds of materials I want. If I wanted to collage, I did want to include this in our discussion today. If I want to use collage, I get out an old phone book, and then whatever the element is that I want to glue, say I wanted to glue down this piece of paper into my sketchbook or onto my cover, if I just put it down on my work table and glue it, it's going to make a mess and it's going to leave a mark of glue. So I open an old phone book to any page, and I put my glue on so I can put it all the way around the edges, and then I turn that page so it's not used again, and I can then put down my gluing scrap or image. Well, there we have it. We have looked at how to paint the cover and keep the corners down. You can see the cover, this corner is just coming up just a tiny little bit. But it's because I didn't put paint on first. I put the gesso on first. And I can see my some of the lettering is showing through again. So I'm going to open my gesso again. And to close our little foray today, I'll get the water off of my brush and wipe my brush with my paint rag. Always have a paint rag. And dip it back into the gesso. It's almost dry, so to complete our exploration of journals and sketchbooks and how to do a cover so that it does not curl and so that it covers over the manufacturer's identifying information and gives you, the artist, an opportunity to create a blank slate for your cover, and then from that point on, make it your own. Yay, us. Okay, so this is Iona, this is Wren House Studio, and today we've been looking at how to create a fresh cover for our sketchbook workbook. And then we also looked at the different kinds of sketchbooks, notebooks, workbooks that we might explore, and we could even give it a go and make one of our own, like Karen did here. And she's got this beautiful little cord that wraps around it and closes it. There you have it. See you soon.